In this video, I'm going to run through my recent experience of using Tesla service in the UK in March 2024. This video might help other new Tesla owners because Teslas do seem to get quite a bit of criticism for their service, but I feel that could be partly because people don't understand how Tesla work, and maybe they expect the same experience that you get from a traditional UK main dealer. And it's far from that. It's all automated, contactless, and they've cut out the service reception, which I feel is a good thing. So in this case, the reason why I was using service is because my 3-month-old Tesla Model Y had developed what could best be described as a creaking from the hatchback. It wasn't a rattle, it wasn't trim, it sounded like it was the whole boot lid was creaking as I was driving on rough country roads. I had a look at it myself, and I thought it might just be the bump stops. And what I did was lay strips of paper on the stops, and when the hatch was down, the hatch seemed to be very tight on those bump stops, because when I tried to slide the bits of paper out, they were tight and they all torn. So I concluded the bump stops didn't need adjusting, and the car's under warranty anyway, so I thought, well, there's no point starting to take it all apart. And my assumption was Tesla would know exactly what the fault was, because I'm sure they've seen others, and that's why I thought, well, I'll book it in for service and just let them fix it. So I went on the app and raised the service request, and I did this quite late on a Saturday afternoon, and I wasn't expecting a response really until the Monday morning. But to my surprise, I got a response an hour later. I had assumed this would be a job for a ranger to come out to me, but no, the app was saying I needed to book an appointment at the local service centre, which in my case was Reading. And then in the app, you then saw all the available appointments at the Reading Service Centre. And to my astonishment, it was 2 or 3 days' time, which is just amazing, because traditional main dealers, currently you're looking at 8 weeks or more. I know some of them are 12 weeks. And, 8+ weeks is now the normal at most of the main dealers, certainly in the south of England. So to get an appointment only 3 working days later is just brilliant. So I selected the following Wednesday for 11 o'clock in the morning. And then the day before, I had a message confirming the appointment and what to do when I get there and where to wait. After confirming the appointment, I then did get another message with an estimate, which was £158 including VAT, which I did approve even though I knew this would be a warranty job. This is no different to any other garage, of course, even though it's a warranty job, because if it turns out that it isn't a valid warranty, they're going to want to get paid for the work they've done. But with Tesla, their fees are much more reasonable. On the Wednesday morning, I was getting ready to make my way into Reading, and at 8 AM in the morning, I had a text from Tesla to say our technician is unwell, we're short-staffed, and we need to reschedule. But in the message, they did say that I could still attend if I wanted to, and they would try to squeeze me in, but I didn't fancy potentially sitting there all day, and mine wasn't an urgent issue at all, so I just went on the app and rebooked it for the following week. And I then selected a new appointment for the following Tuesday at 10:30 in the morning. On the following Tuesday, I drove to Reading. I arrived at the service centre at 10:10 in the morning for my 10:30 appointment. When you pull into the grounds of the service centre, your app recognises you're there, it all pings into life, and in my case I wasn't parked quite close enough, so it was telling me to drive a little bit closer to the building, which I then moved parking space, and I was within the zone that it was showing on the app, and then the car's automatically booked in, so you just walk away from the car, allow it to lock, you don't speak to anyone, hand anyone any keys. And I was going to wait, so I just went in the showroom, made myself a coffee and sat down and did some work. When you leave the car, you don't have to worry about your pin to drive or leaving a key card, because the service technicians walk up to the car with a tablet, they can unlock the car, have full control, override the security. It's all just very slick and efficient. I was a little bit early, so I was expecting to be there for maybe 2 hours or so. So I made myself a cup of coffee, logged on to the free Wi-Fi and settled down to do a few hours of work. The time was ticking on, so I sent a message via the app just to include some more information about my issue, about the rattle, and just said that I'm also waiting in the showroom. But then another hour went past and I still hadn't heard anything, but my car was saying that it was in service. Then it got to 1 o'clock. I got up and had a look in the car park, and to my astonishment, my car was still sitting where I'd left it. So at this point, I went and chatted to one of the sales guys and just told him that I'd been waiting for 3 hours now and my car hadn't moved. So he took my details and said he was just going to go down to the workshop anyway, so he would go and get an update for me. But he did also suggest that I should send another message on the app, because the technician booked to work on my car would get to see that, and just remind them that I was waiting in the showroom. I didn't get around to doing that because he soon returned and apologised and said that the guy who was working on my car was still working on the previous appointment, and it could be potentially up to another 2 hours before my car would get seen by him, but he would put another technician on the job and hopefully they will get it in a bit sooner. So at this point I thought, well, I might as well go and walk down to the local supermarket and grab some lunch. And as I walked out the building, I'd noticed my car had moved. So within that 15 minutes or so, they'd come and got my car and took it down to the workshop. As I was walking down the road to the local supermarket, I then saw my car driving down the road. So clearly they were out doing a test drive to identify this noise from the boot. A minute or so later, the car was coming back the other way, then facing me. So I then sort of waved to the driver and let him know that that was my car. And he then pulled over, wound down the window, and I had a chat to the technician. He was apologetic about the delays and said I should jump in, and he then drove us both back to the service centre. He had already adjusted the boot, and I could then confirm that the problem was fixed because it was lovely and quiet. It was like the day I picked the car up when it was new, and he had previously adjusted all the bump stops and made the boot much tighter. And agreed that it was pretty bad. So we went back to the service centre. He dropped me off at the showroom, and then he took the car back down to the workshop and said, just give me a few more minutes to wrap it up. He also said that he had actually come over from the Guildford service centre that morning to help out because Reading was short-staffed. And I then did also chat to the sales guy again, and he also told me that a lot of the staff had been ill at Reading, and they were having issues with staffing because there was illness going round, and actually one of his colleagues had just come back in that day after being off for 2 weeks. So clearly they were having an issue downstairs as well in the workshops, and not enough technicians in due to illness. I then made myself another cup of coffee, but after 10 minutes I got a message on the app to say my car was finished. I had also previously asked the technician to put the car on the supercharger when he had finished, which he had done, so my car was waiting downstairs on the charger for me to collect. Even though I had waited 3 hours before the car had gone down to the workshop, once it had done, he had taken it for a test drive to diagnose the problem, then gone back and adjusted the boot, and then gone back out on a second test drive where he picked me up, and then went back down to the workshop to finish off and then put it on the supercharger, and they had done all of that in about 25 to 30 minutes. When I got the message on the app to say the car was ready, the estimate for the job had also been zeroed down to a free of charge job because they had then confirmed that it was a warranty issue. I then went downstairs to the supercharger, let the charging finished, and then got on my way. So unfortunately on the day I did have that 3 hour wait before the car went into the workshop, but clearly they had illness and staffing issues, but they had brought this guy over from another service centre to help them out. But once the car went down, they were very quick and efficient to get it sorted. There were a couple of other people waiting in the lounge area. I got chatting to one chap, and his appointment was 15 minutes after mine, and when I left just before 2 o'clock, he had a look in the car park and his car hadn't moved yet either, so he was in a similar situation. But he had come prepared to be there all day, and by the looks of it, he probably was going to be. So overall, on reflection, I'm still impressed with the service I got from Tesla. It was just unfortunate on that day they were short-staffed, but the reality was I've waited much longer in other main dealers before, and Tesla still proved to be much more slick and efficient with the way they operate their service. And I suspect you want to know what they did to fix the issue. They just adjusted the bump stops. So I hope you found that useful. If you have, or you found it interesting, please do click the thumbs up. That really does help to get the videos and the channel noticed. Ask any questions in the comments below, do subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.